This is Suburban On Air and Cohen in the City. Here is Mike Cohen.
Blue Rodeo.
Blue Rodeo.
Blue Rodeo.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Blue Rodeo. There's a lot of love in the band. You know, the first couple of songs every night, I feel this sort of wave of love.
Well, if you haven't seen it already, Blue Ice Docs has released Blue Rodeo, Lost Together. It's the highly anticipated documentary chronicling the 40-year-old journey of Canada's legendary band, yes, called Blue Rodeo. And it is a terrific, I'm getting my tongue tied there, Greg. But it's a terrific film. I've got a chance to look at it. It was here in Montreal at the Forum, and it's making its way across the country. And on February 19th, people could see it on CBC Gem. So joining me is original band member, vocalist Greg Keeler, and director Dale Heslip. So thank you guys both for joining me. And I guess I'll start with Dale. Dale, I was talking to you off camera. You've known the Blue Rodeo gang from day one, right? So it wasn't too much of a stretch for you to think of doing a documentary on them.
No, it was the guys have heard me say this a few times. It's like I probably wanted to do a documentary the first time I hung out with them, and
would have been a little short.
yeah, but no, it was an easy choice for me to want to do this, and I think because I've known the guys for so long that it made the relationship on camera easy for the guys too. Like we've had a really very enjoyable time putting it together, doing the interviews, which weren't really interviews; they were more like conversations. We filmed the band recording in a Hamilton recording studio. We filmed Jim and Greg at Jim's farm, just the two of them playing acoustic guitar. So it's been an absolute pleasure to hang out with the guys and get their story out there, and then to see the reaction has been mind-blowing, to be honest. It's just been remarkable, the great reaction we've received.
I'm sure it has. Now, Greg, I must admit I was doing my Greg Keeler research before the interview, and I had no idea that you started singing at the Mount Royal Catholic Boys Choir in the town of Mount Royal, right near where we're recording this video. So you're sort of a townie.
Oh, I'm a townie. Yeah, that's where my dad got transferred to Montreal in 62 or 3. And so we were there for 10 years. So yeah, and it was actually St. Joseph's in the center of town there. And that's where I sang for the boys' choir in grade 5 and 6.
All right. So you have TMR roots. Have you been back? Do you ever come back to visit? Do you ever go take a visit to TMR to check it out, the old stomping grounds?
I love TMR. It was like a adolescent ideal. It was sort of like I didn't know it at the time, but it was just built for kids. And, a beautiful, sort of nice upper middle class sort of, and it really felt like a town when I was a kid living there, separate from everywhere else.
Well, if you come back, you're going to have to check out Royal Mount. It's this gigantic luxury mall that just opened up, and it's quite large, quite exciting, and who knows, Dale might come with you and do a documentary on the building of Royal Mount. It's quite something.
Where's Royal Mount? Is it where Rockland used to?
No, actually, it's in the other end. It's more in the industrial park, so off of DeCarry. Like it's in the part of TMR that you don't think is TMR. You're under like, how is that TMR? It doesn't seem like it's TMR. It's like across the street.
Still by Orange Julep there?
That's right near Orange Julep, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you had a few juleps in your day, right, Greg?
Oh, tons, yeah. All that whole strip was where we hung out in our father's company cars.
Exactly. So, Dale, this documentary, it's been in theaters. You say it's been getting a good reception. But I think it's great that it's going to be on CBC Gem, so people from all over the world can see it at no cost, right?
Yep, it's on CBC Gem, and then it's on the CBC main channel March 23rd.
Oh, okay.
First peak is Gem on the 19th of February, and
Right.
then the next one is the main channel on March 23rd.
How much fun did you have making this film with these guys?
Oh, geez, it was pinch me moments all day long.
Yeah.
When we filmed them at Jim's farm, I was mentioning earlier, Jim and Greg were rehearsing Gordon Lightfoot songs for the Gordon Lightfoot tribute that was
Okay.
coming up at Massey Hall, and we're like, look at each other. I was like, how cool is this? And
Yeah.
then, Jim and Greg sat on the couch telling stories and playing guitars and hearing them harmonize like 5 feet away from you is just, remarkable. It's so effortless. They blend so beautifully. I mean, I've seen them live a million times, got lots of records, but when you hear it in that moment, it's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, we all had a great time.
Right.
We had a short amount of time to pull this off, but it was tons of fun.
Greg, how does it feel? You've seen the film. How does it feel to be immortalized like that? To have something that people could watch, people could see forever. Your family members 10, 15, 20, 100 years from now could see it. That must feel good.
It's funny to think this, the other night Eric M asked about what do you want your legacy to be, right? And I thought I don't really care about my legacy, and then I realized that legacies are built by other people around you. Legacies are built by the momentum of your life and whatever has brought you to that moment. So um, it's the whole career, has been sort of a too good to be real. And yeah, I guess it's an amazing thing to be taken into the depth of Canadian culture that we have been accepted.
We see so many biopics, like motion pictures about bands with the behind the scenes stories, and very few last. How does a band like yours last for 40 years? You and Jim Cuddy, I'm sure there were ups and downs over the years, but that's a tough grind. How have you gone on for 40 years, and you're 70 years young? 10 years from now, you'll be 80. Will you still be around for your 50th? I mean around as a band.
The band just sort of has the momentum of its own, and I'm sure that if I can walk, I'll be on stage, singing "Lost Together." Yeah, I don't really understand it. I have a little bit of the pretender syndrome. I don't really. I don't know how. I don't get it.
Dale, what do you think as a documentary maker? I mean, you've seen this band, that they're still together, that they're still friends, that they're still talking, that they haven't, even the Bee Gees broke up and they were brothers, and they had a long time to get back together. What do you think about that?
Well, I think having hung out with the guys for the last year, that you get exposed to the behind the scenes makeup of what makes this relationship tick. And the number one thing is humor. They make each other laugh all day long. In a film you saw, like all the way to the very end, they're making each other laugh. So their relationship is certainly founded in humor, but it's also they like each other's voices, they like each other's songwriting, they like playing with each other. I think it. I mean, it is very much like a relationship. Sorry, a marriage, in that
Yeah.
they call each other out on stuff. There's an open communication. There's honesty, and then the humor. The humor just sort of disarms everything. In fact, Michael Holland had a great line in the film where he talks about the harmonies and the blending, and how the blending of their voices solves a lot of arguments because it just makes them feel good. So I think
Right.
it's all of the above that makes it creates the longevity for these guys. But certainly, when you can make each other laugh, it sort of takes a lot of the heat off.
Greg, I have to ask this question, given most recently there's been a lot of publicity about the troubles with Donald Trump and him trying to make Canada the 51st state, and tariffs and everything else. Do you believe this is time for Canadians who have already embraced Blue Rodeo to embrace you even more because you're all Canadian?
Well, that's true, and these are real threats from the American government, and we can't just idly sit back and hope for the best here. I'm. It's a strange. These are strange times,
Yep,
I
for
don't
sure.
think they could be any weirder. I feel like I'm like living in a Kurt Vonnegut novel, or a who wrote Catch-22?
Well, Greg said it well, Dale, and I think to conclude, we sometimes maybe take it for granted that we have such great talent in our own country, and I know that Blue Rodeo has traveled all over the world, but this is definitely one of the bands, one of the greatest Canadian bands ever. I'm sure you would agree.
I would totally agree, and I think that they have an enormous fan base in Canada. But there's I saw people from Virginia after the screening on Saturday night. I got an email from a radio station in San Francisco asking if it's going to play there.
Wow.
Yeah, there's enormous interest, obviously, across Canada. The film was the #1 Canadian box office after this past weekend, which is also remarkable. But yeah, it's just, again, it's they're truly loved, and they should be.
Yeah, they should be for sure. I guess I do want to sneak in one last question, Greg, and that is the question I've actually never got the answer to because I've never really asked it: is where did you come up with the name Blue Rodeo?
We were living in New York at the time, and we had sort of been influenced by country music in a way that we never had been before, and we wanted to underline that somehow and somehow set a mood. So it was, just a bit of a fluke, Blue Rodeo, and it sort of stuck.
Got a good ring to it, that's for sure. Well, I'm definitely encouraging people to watching this from wherever they are to go see a screening, to wait for CBC Gem, to wait for CBC Network. Thank you both for joining me, and keep up the great work.
A pleasure, Mr. Cohen. Thanks for having us.
Great having
Yeah.
Dale Heslop and Greg Keeler with me.